Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really dark, fascinating mythological epic from our source material. It's essentially a cautionary fable about a terrifying figure known as the Pale Inquisitor. This is a being who makes the ultimate, chilling choice to completely sacrifice his own humanity just to uphold an absolute, unforgiving code. Life is a transgression. Seriously, imagine waking up every single morning, and that is your absolute, unshakable truth. Close your eyes for just a second. Picture a world painted entirely in cold, unforgiving grays. We're stepping into the brutalist reality of a mind that literally views its own existence, its own pulse, its own desires, as absolute crimes against order. And that brings us to his core, grim philosophy, which is purification through subtraction. You have to understand, the Inquisitor isn't looking for salvation, and he definitely doesn't want eternal glory. For him, true righteousness means systematically stripping away everything, every desire, all history, all humanity. He literally just wants to become an empty vessel, entirely hollowed out by the extreme rigidity of his own rules. So let's look at the first act of this tragedy. Parable 1, the Ancestral Shroud. Listen closely for a second. Can you hear the slow, agonizing drag of heavy, metal-clad boots scraping endlessly across cold, unyielding stone? Picture the harsh, brutalist geometry of the iron bridge stretching out in front of him. The massive armor he wears as he crosses, it's not actually meant to keep him safe. It's a penitential garment. It's this incredibly harsh exterior constraint, a heavy cage designed specifically to punish the wearer. And here's why that armor is so deeply punishing. Every single plate is meticulously carved with the failures of those who came before him. We're talking centuries ago, decades ago, right up to the present day. It creates this literal crushing gravity of lineage. He has to bear the sheer weight of these historical failures with every single step. And by doing that, he completely martyrs his own physical and spiritual mobility. Dragging behind him right there across the ash-covered stones is the leaden banner. Now, this isn't some proud flag waving in the wind. It drags heavily in the ash, completely refusing to flutter. It's such a melancholic symbol, right? It perfectly represents a spirit that has been intentionally and brutally silenced in total service to his law. Which brings us to our next chapter, Parable 2, the Ledger of Forbidden Hunger. This is where we see the Inquisitor acting as a sort of necrotic gatekeeper, policing human nature itself. Imagine him holding this massive, damp ledger. You can almost feel the cold, moist parchment in your hands. His entire task is to record the chaotic noise of the soul. He meticulously documents every single forbidden impulse that infects the living, and he writes it all down in the dark ink of regret. Just think about what actually goes into that ledger. Any disharmonious desire is met with totally ruthless action. Personal growth, sacrificed immediately. Everyday human joy, silenced. The self is completely edited down until nothing is left but a blank page. He clinically records these perceived failures while simultaneously sacrificing any tiny possibility of his own joy. So he's effectively a clinical recorder of failure, striving endlessly for that one single blank page. But let's pause and bring this back to our own reality for a second. Why does this matter to us? Well, think about the destructive nature of extreme perfectionism. When we constantly suppress our everyday joys, or when we overly police our own natural instincts, trying to be entirely flawless, we actually risk becoming our own necrotic gatekeepers. We risk erasing the very things that make us beautifully human. And that sobering thought sets the stage for our final act, Parable 3, the Altar of the Holy Mirror. The climax happens at the Shattered Gate. This is a truly terrifying place where towering, brutalist architecture abruptly drops off into a vast, silent abyss. Here, the heavily burdened, deeply flawed Inquisitor finally kneels, and he kneels before a terrifying figure known as the Black Knight. The contrast here is massive. You have the exhausted, etched existence of the Inquisitor face to face with a flawless, completely desireless void. But here's the twist. The Inquisitor doesn't see this shadow as an enemy, not at all. To him, the Black Knight is a divine architect of purity. It's a holy mirror. It represents the absolute ultimate ideal, simply because it possesses zero flaws, absolutely no lingering desires, and no concept of self whatsoever. Which leads us directly into the epilogue, a perfect nothingness. We've reached the terminal point of his dark perfectionism. Let the sheer poetic melancholy of this really sink in. He kneels at the shattered gate. He offers his entire existence to the void. And finally, he is crushed and consumed. He willingly lets his own existence be completely obliterated by the absolute rigidity of his own decree. It is the ultimate sacrifice to his unforgiving duty. And with that final act, he actually achieves his grim goal. He becomes a husk of perfect, law-abiding nothingness, as clean and as silent as the abyss itself. Those heavy, dragging footsteps on the cold stone, they cease. The relentless scribbling in that damp ledger, it stops. His internal void has finally matched his harsh external constraints. He has entirely obliterated his identity just to uphold the law, leaving behind absolutely nothing but a cold, gray silence. So, we're going to wrap up our explainer today with a pretty haunting question. What is the true cost of erasing your own humanity in the obsessive pursuit of flawless perfection? It's a heavy thing to ponder, isn't it? Sacrificing the chaotic, beautiful noise of your true identity for an ideal that is utterly unattainable. Thank you so much for joining me for this dark fable. I really hope it leaves you thinking about the true value of your own beautiful imperfections.